Hi, we are live. I snapped my fingers 5 times and it didn't work. Welcome to the weekly.
Click to your heels. Click to your heels. That's how it works.
I probably would have fallen down and broken something if I tried that here. Welcome to episode 33 of the weekly. And of course, we have most of our usual host of characters. Starting off with Mr. Juan Bagnell from Some Gadget Guy, aka Pocket Now, aka that's both him, either one.
It's the same guy. It's like Batman and Bruce Wayne. I'm very much like Batman.
And then moving on to Sam, aka Black Iron _man. How's it going, man?
Nice. How's everyone doing?
Good. Okay. Let's kick things off with first of all, do we have a uselessness? I didn't even think about it before pre-show because I didn't really have one.
I mean, this week was dominated by a certain company's news and the lead up to all of that. So
okay,
I don't know that there was a lot of owing for additional. Yeah.
All right, so let's kick things off with a company that was having the best week ever. Talking about Apple. Well, I mean, if you own Apple stock, it's looking pretty good now with the launch of the iPhone 7. So yesterday, Friday, iPhone 7 launched. There were lines at the Apple store. There were considerable lines at various Apple stores. There were some lines at T-Mobile and AT&T stores. But to put everything into perspective, Apple looked like they had a very good launch in terms of just buzz and awareness. A lot of people didn't get devices. It looked like things were supposedly sold out, weren't available. If you're like me, who is a T-Mobile customer, T-Mobile attendants told me there were only 3 iPhones per T-Mobile store in the Brooklyn area. I'm not sure about New York in general, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's at least maybe 3 or 5 maximum if you move into the city. I know, Juan, you had mentioned in LA, AT&T also had similar predicaments.
Yeah, I mean, really, this entire launch is predicated on the fact that if you didn't pre-order, then it was very likely you didn't get the phone you wanted. I think the numbers at AT&T stores out here in LA were a little bit healthier than 3 phones per store. But we also know, like in speaking with some of the PR reps that manage locally AT&T's PR local, like they weren't even really given any kind of seed devices or review units. Usually we get a couple phones to play with, and at this point everyone was pretty much in the same boat where they had to buy their phones to just touch them and play with them. So we had to do that at Pocket Now. We had to buy our iPhone just like every other schlub.
Yeah, same here. We had trusty Alex are out there early in the morning, lighting up for the iPhone 7. Then around 4 o'clock in the morning, I was able to get one. So we'll have 24 hours of iPhone 7 with Alex later on today. But before we even move forward, I know you've handled the device, Juan. I haven't. Yeah. Sam hasn't. But Sam, thoughts on the launch of the iPhone, the buzz? It looks like
headphone jack. Does it have a headphone jack?
Yeah,
no,
it doesn't.
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done.
All right. So Sam.
Nah, it's just, I don't know. I personally think it's one of those things. A new Apple product, like I said before, I don't think this device is going to do too well because I don't think what was updated in the device is really, anything monumental. I think at the end of the day, yes, we're going to get a better camera in there, but apart from that, it's still the same old Apple. It still looks like the 6. Most people who have the 6 aren't going to upgrade because for them it's not as much of an accessory because it looks like the old accessory. So I don't know. I think it's just going to be one of those soft launches. It's not.
This really does feel like a phone that's designed to finally push over all of those 5 and 5S owners. Like it's about time you guys moved on. You've had your phone for 3 years. You need to give Apple your money again. Come on.
Remember the deal we made? We keep making this stuff and you keep buying it. Remember?
Right. No. So I think what maybe, because in terms of design, I think that one of the things that I'm a little disappointed in is all of this controversy over removing the headphone jack, and it didn't change the form factor at all. It's almost exactly the same dimensions. And in fact, I'd even still be able to use my 6 and 6S cases were it not for just the redesigned camera module. So they changed just enough that I can't even recycle my old case, you know. So that to me is actually kind of frustrating.
Quick question here.
That feels really cynical.
I know somebody had answered in the comment, but how is the speaker? Because we all know the S7 speaker and the Note, even the Note 7 to some degree, it's a little muffled because of the water resistance there. How does this sound compared to, they say, the S7? Because right now, someone is saying that SuperSAF did a comparison. It sounds a little worse. I don't know. Have you tried that out yet? Or
so
not?
I haven't done a direct head-to-head. I mean, like in a controlled environment. I've been listening to the speakers on the iPhone 7. I do not think the 7 has better sound quality. It's just louder.
Okay.
So the dual speakers, I think, again, I think this is one of those things, like when you're really thinking about alerts and notifications, that's a benefit. It's louder, but I don't think it sounds better for that extra volume. So I really do need to spend some time playing with that. All day yesterday was really spent one, just getting I got my phone late in the afternoon, so I was scrambling at midnight to put up an unboxing and first impressions video. But for me, what time I did get to spend putting it through its paces was really focused on the headphone jack. And that's another situation where I'll give your audience the tease, because we'll talk about this more in our full review on Pocket now. But early testing, moving to the Lightning jack has not improved audio quality. And I think that the iPhone 6s with the 3.5 millimeter jack is very slightly scientifically outperforming the headphone audio through the adapter on the Lightning port on the iPhone, which shouldn't come as a surprise, because you basically have the DAC, the amp, then you send that to 2 pins on the Lightning connector, which then have to be transferred to the 3.5 millimeter jack. So you have an extra connection in the way. It would make sense to me that on analog hardware like that it would actually subtly degrade the sound quality coming out of that Lightning port.
Okay, I saw a breakdown from Business Insider that showed the internals. I think it was iFixit who always does the breakdowns and tear ups of phones, and they showed the space where the 3.5 jack would be. There's nothing there. There's just a cap cover, and Apple says that is a barometric dampener. I swear to God, man.
Is that where we keep the flux capacitor now? Is that what?
Yes.
No,
I thought they would sprinkle some dilithium crystals.
No,
in there.
so I mean, like the headphone jack is really a negligible piece of a phone if we're talking about the internals of a phone. Yeah. You're gonna have chin bezel, you're gonna have forehead bezel, you've got an O-broom for selfie cameras, for speakers. That one thin strip of where we used to put the 3.5 millimeter jack does not really dictate a lot of space. So if you're really not trying to make your phone stupid thin like a Moto Z, there's no point in getting rid of it, especially like I'm playing with a new, unfortunately, this is another engineering sample. It's not a retail, so I'm not going to be doing our full review on this V20. But even just plugging headphones into this thing, it's crazy what this thing can do to generate sound and how sophisticated it is at telling the difference between line inputs and headphones of different impedance. That's a phenomenal difference when it comes to high quality audio, and it's using that crazy old jack. I mean, that jack was invented in the 1870s. Why would we still use it? Because it's amazing, because it's fine, because it's a universal standard.
I have to tell you, Juan, you are wrong. Joseph says you are wrong. You have no courage to tell the truth. No courage at all.
So here's my courage. Here's my courage. The reason why 3.5 millimeter jacks are awesome is because they are a proper, open, universal standard. And the LG V10 and the LG V20 can create frequencies of sound that dogs cannot hear. There is no audio quality benefit to getting rid of the 3.5 millimeter jack. And Lightning is actually a subtle degradation from the 3.5 because of the extra adapter in the way.
All right, cool. I think we've covered all things Apple. Quick one: were you able to see the the Apple battery case?
No, I didn't get to. I actually didn't even get inside an Apple store. I spent 4 hours in Pasadena talking about the iPhone on camera with local news outlets and never made it inside the Apple store. So I really have to throw a thumbs up. The folks at AT&T opened a store early for me so I could play with the phone before my my pre-order unit was delivered. and that's all the time I got to play with. And AT&T had 0 accessories. All they had was the Lightning connector dock for adding a 3.5 millimeter jack there, and so I didn't get to see any. I didn't even get to play with the new Apple Watch. I mean, like, I didn't get any hands-on time with anything.
Okay, because I was going to ask, does that battery case have a separate, you know, Lightning port or separate 3.5 mm jack so that you can, you know, listen to music, or is just the same?
I think it's the same. I think it's the same case.
Okay.
And again, you have to buy a new one if you have an iPhone 6 or 6S, because the cutout for the camera is just in a slightly different place.
All right.
So Apple needs more money for that case.
All right.
Because it's totally different. It's totally different than last year's phone, except that it's exactly the same, except for the camera, which makes it totally different.
So in terms of sales numbers, I know you were talking about that, Sam. Since we're not going to hear it, do you think Apple is going to do anything to kind of ramp, at least state that they've done so well, as just to put a day out there to say, like, look, you know, the sales have been pretty good with our device?
No, I think they're just going to stick to what's it called, investor calls, and that's about it. That's going to be it. I don't think they're going to release numbers for this one, because for some reason, with this phone being not as monumental a difference from the prior device, chances are they're not going to sell as much.
But it's water resistant, man. I mean, like, you can throw it on.
It has 2 speakers, and it has a plastic thing where a 3.5 millimeter jack should be. Come on, it makes sense. Go buy it.
Yeah, come on, man. Don't be like that. Apple's having a good week. Now, moving on to our friends who are having the worst week ever.
Oh boy,
Samsung. Yes, Samsung. So Samsung has done a couple of things. It's now on a full official recall yet again.
Yeah.
And
I'm happy they finally made the transition. I thought it took them a little too long to get to this point, if the battery problem really was this systemic, but I interrupt.
No, especially with the whole idea.
We'll get there, Sam. We'll get this out. Second, Samsung America president put up a video apologizing for the issues at hand, and stated how many devices they've replaced, 130, which brings up the problem which you have faced, Sam, with T-Mobile. And I just was talking to a friend of mine who was asking me about some other tech stuff, and I just remembered he had a Note 7. He was one of those Apple guys who went from an iPhone 6S, 6S Plus to a Note 7. And he said he's been battling for a week with T-Mobile to get a loaner or get it replaced. And that has been a huge problem with carriers. So I'm going to open the floor to you guys. With you, Sam, start off, because I know you faced that whole issue of trying to get.
T-Mobile is not doing they're not doing themselves any favor, especially with people who, like, I have a business account with T-Mobile. So for T-Mobile, like, normally the business account, you get your device first. From if you understand if what you're saying is true, right? You get your device first before everyone else. I had to go in the store to ask for a loaner. They told me to call a certain number. I called that number for them to tell me to go in the store. I finally had to put my foot down. I go, you know what, guys? No, you're going to send me a phone, and I'm not going to keep going back and forth. And then he goes, oh, let me go talk to someone. He had to go talk to his manager for his manager to tell him that, oh, yeah, he should send a phone out. I'm like, come on. This is something you should know. You know, this is something, if you go on the Samsung site, it says contact the retailer, right? So I'm contacting the retailer, and if you call the retailer tells you go in the store first. So you go in the store. Then you go to the store and they tell you we have no loaner units. It's like, why is it so complicated? All you guys do is sell services and phones. That's really all you do. So it's a little frustrating. I feel bad that your friend's like taking a full week.
Yeah, it is. Because he is an Apple convert. I'm sorry, not convert. Sorry, he's a former Apple list. He's one of those who he just picked up a Pro 4. He now has a Note 7. So I'm in my mind, I'm like, please don't switch back. Please don't switch back. Please don't switch back. Please don't switch back. You know, but he enjoyed his Note 7 while he had it. No issues per se.
It's a compelling device. There's no way. Like, seriously, I just got my loaner yesterday, so I'm in the process of for the second time. I'm sorry, for the third time in 4 weeks. I'm in the process of going from this to this to this. But oh well. But then again, next week I probably will go back from this to this.
Oh yeah,
But
because
at the end of the day,
devices
it's
are
a
coming back. Yeah.
compelling device. It is a very compelling device. It is beautiful to look at. It's old. It works well. The changes they've made to just to what I call professional features, taking notes and things, that works well. Like before, I would take a note and it was just my handwriting. Now I can take a note with handwriting recognition and have it look all typed up. So when I send my notes to myself, it looks typed up. That's like freaking amazing, you know. So it does what it does well, but they've screwed up this device launch so badly that I feel as though this phone is not really going to get going until probably end of Q1 next year, and that's going to be very bad because
I don't think this phone's ever going to get going. I think exactly the issues that you're talking about is with such a visceral recall process, because we're assuming that it's something like 70% of Galaxy Note 7s could have been affected by some of these battery issues. I just don't believe that there was any kind of supply chain that could have supplied the carriers to properly execute loaner devices and recalls in a way that would have been meaningful to consumers, let alone, I mean, to some of the business customers out there who have an expectation of better service. I just don't know that there's any way for this.
No,
this
I would
device
disagree.
to properly recover in the minds of general consumers. I think this is why it's one of our other stories. We'll talk about this later. Is how quickly Samsung is going to move on to the number 8.
Yeah.
I think the Note 7 is going to be now sort of a niche device this year for those people who are Note fans, who really want that extra functionality, who are happy to wait for this process to be sorted, for these phones to be fixed. But then, you know, we're going to see an explosion of news media, pun intended, if any future notes ever have problems. So once this whole recall process is done, just normal wear and tear, we know that there will be a statistically small number of devices that have problems with battery regardless, not affected by this problem. And then it's going to be another batch of news stories all over again in a way that no other manufacturer would ever be able to weather. I think moving forward, we just really have to look for S8 and Note 8 and hope that Samsung can get back on track.
Yeah.
So question, real quick question. Does anyone here think Samsung is probably thinking at the back of their head, we should just name this device the Note 6?
Well, someone tweeted me, it's like, how funny would it be if like Samsung went back? You know, you can see like the whole ad campaign, like sometimes you have to go back to go forward, introducing the all new Note 6.
No, I mean, in terms of when you were mentioning talking about supply chain, I think what they should have done was ask you to contact your carriers to make the initial process, but everything should have been shipped out by Samsung, whether it's a loaner S7 or S7 Edge or Note 5. Samsung has those devices, and you might as well ship them out to people rather than have the carriers. This is where the partnership with all the carriers failed them completely, because even though they had gone through different fumble steps in terms of stating you as a full recall, not a recall, they had always said from the beginning, go to the carriers if you want to get it swapped out. That was one of the first things they mentioned for a loaner. The carriers really screwed them on the pooch in this one completely. And, you know, it's, you know, where you have stories where it's hard for people to get loaner units. Maybe some companies have been better. Sprint has been a little better than others. I think Sprint is just doing the best job they can because they are number 4. So, you know, I mean, you're having those kind of situations there, and it doesn't bode well. So hopefully, I hope Samsung learns from this, especially on the carrier side, and really forces the carriers come next year on certain things.
I was going to ask, guys, do you think that this is going to have any impact on maybe expanding the conversation in the United States for high-end devices and buying unlocked phones? That because I feel like if you were on Samsung's because Samsung has their own like leasing program, right, where you can like flip your phone every year.
They haven't. No, not okay. They haven't officially done that. No.
So I mean, we've heard rumors of them talking about potentially setting up their own, kind of like what Apple does, where you go even directly to Apple.
No, it's still through your carrier unless you're buying it on. I mean, fully priced unlocked.
But that's what I mean is like if you buy it fully priced unlocked, then you go to Apple, and so there's no expectation that Apple would ever send you to your carrier with any issues because you're dealing directly with Apple. So do we think that this might influence Samsung to do the same? I think it would be easier for Samsung to manage some of these issues. I mean, because we know future phones will probably have problems. You know, there are always going to be a batch of bad devices, or LG with boot looping, stuff like that. But if you're dealing directly with the manufacturer, not having to go through any kind of middleman, Samsung, I think, would have much better control over what stock they have to give out loaners, to give out replacements, refurbs, etc. Do you think that this is something that they can now broach a conversation with the public at large?
Warren, want to jump on that?
Hey, I'm here.
You took forever
Warren,
to get here.
I didn't even notice you had jumped in. What's
exactly.
up, Warren?
No,
I had the show notes
to...
up, so I didn't see any of the alerts.
Oh, yeah, no, I was waiting for the host to actually introduce and say hey and hello and do all those things and stuff like that. But
you're late.
Yeah, not so much, you know. I don't know. We got to work on some post improvements here. But anyways, the good old Note 7, the phone that will disappear from everyone's memory like does anybody remember the Note Edge still existed back then?
I disagree. It should be the highest selling phone, Android phone, for this end of the year. I guarantee you.
What, the Note 7?
It will beat every
Note 7?
Yeah.
The Note 7? Absolutely not. The S7 Edge will.
No. I said from this point to the end of the year, not anything released.
Still, the Note 7 Edge will probably outsell it.
Oh, the S7 Edge. No, the S7 will always be the highest selling phone.
No. I think I agree with Warren. I think that towards the end of the year, the S7 Edge, because of consumer fears that people won't fully understand what the scope of this recall is. They've just seen all of the things. I'll be curious to see if the Galaxy name is tarnished because
because they don't ever say Galaxy next to the Note anymore. They haven't been doing that since the Note 4.
Yeah, but we've already seen those. Like, look at how much press that one Galaxy S7 exploding got, or how inappropriate the media has been in reporting things. Like that one kid who got burned, but it wasn't from a Note; it was from some Galaxy. What was it?
Core.
It was the Core, right? But again, it was reported it's a Samsung phone. It's a Samsung phone exploded in a kid's hands. I'll be curious to see if Samsung is able to keep the Galaxy brand in total free from being tarnished by this.
Well, I think that's fine because at the end of the day, it's a Samsung phone, and that's their name on that. That's the brand that they have to worry more about than the Galaxy brand itself. They the Note 7 so far as its recall and how so many people said they've messed it up. There was no good way to do this because they don't for them to even attempt to try and be the ones directly to return phones would kind of be a really hard logistic thing to do because you got to remember. They sell a phone called the Note 7, but how many models of the Note 7 are there? There's about 4 to 5 different ones because every carrier has something different. And that it's not like with the iPhone where there's one iPhone and that's all. They have a few different variants depending on the country. But in the United States, it's one iPhone. And if they need to replace it, Apple can directly handle that because it's just one phone. Versus here with the Note 7, unless it's the unlocked one and it works for everyone, and Verizon and Sprint aren't going to be assholes about activating your phone because it's unlocked,
right.
Then maybe they could do something like that. But this is the problem where carrier relationships this was weird because they can try it. It's better off the carriers handle it than they do because they can't necessarily promise like, yeah, we have 10,000 Verizon versions of the Note 7 sitting here in inventory somewhere logistically in this one place versus 10,000 of the Sprint version versus 10,000 of the AT&T version.
Yeah, that's true.
That version, it's hard for them to be able to really accomplish that and do that.
Or unless they really do try and pull what Motorola was doing and making a completely inclusive all radio support.
Yeah, they need to.
I mean, what I would love for them to do is to sell the next to sell their phone themselves and then work with the carriers. And if Verizon and Sprint want to be dickheads about it, then tell them, okay, fine. They can either not give them the phone, which that's not going to work well for Samsung. That's not going to work well for Sprint or Verizon to not have one of the most popular phones on their carrier. And trust me, people understand. People in a day and age where we don't have contracts, people will leave without a hesitation of thought about it to go get another phone someplace else, especially since you can't lock anyone into contracts anymore. And I think that it needs to be discussed of one phone. This is the phone that what it is. and no, you're not getting a branding. I know you're not getting all this nonsense on it, and it just is what it is, because we have to prevent things like this from happening. Because now you see with all these different models, the logistical nightmare when a recall needs to be done happens, because you got to remember they're probably producing these phones all the same until they get to the one part where they have to change a small tweak or small variant for
the radios,
the carrier, either the radio or maybe a little bit tweak in some of the software, and that doesn't happen until the end of production, most likely once the phone's been built.
And in a situation like that, don't we think that Verizon is probably the sticky widget? I mean, they're the company that seems to still be most aggressive. Well, I feel like you can bully Sprint. You know what I mean? Like if you were to go to Sprint and say like, we're not going to give you the phone, Sprint would be like, okay, I'm sorry. But Verizon really gets involved in the process of customizing the software on the phone to a higher degree than the way that Sprint just sort of slaps a couple apps on there. Don't we feel like that's probably the biggest hurdle, is the number one carrier saying, well then fine, we just won't sell your phone, and then not certifying it for Verizon's network.
I say if you're Samsung,
what they should do now. Well, you got to remember, Apple kind of bent a little bit for them when we originally back with the iPhone or Verizon, and then later on, once Verizon saw that the damn thing will sell, they then caved in on that whole thing. So Verizon kind of bullied and won it with Apple, though, in a lot of ways with that. What I think Samsung needs to do is pull the Nexus route of what Huawei did, which was it'll work on every carrier. We just put it out there, and we'll sell it directly ourselves. And if, well, so be it that your carrier doesn't want to sell a phone that directly works with their network, Kanye shrug.
Yeah,
so Verizon, we'll take the money. We'll take the money for the phone, and they just use you as service. And then at that point. Because remember, Verizon's already forced to have all their phones unlocked as it is anyways. So
that's actually true, yeah.
So they could pull this card. It'll piss them off for a little bit, but then maybe get a better conversation about getting to a point where we're not having these million variants of phones. People just buy one phone and you can just choose the service that they want to. They can struggle all they want to. These carriers are not being dumb pipes, but that's what you are.
Comment from Joseph Hampton in the live chat. Does Samsung have a partnership with a financial institution for financing? I don't know too many people will want to shell out $700 plus upfront for their phone.
They didn't get it done.
Samsung is a big enough company to where it probably does have relationships.
It might have its own damn bank in Korea somewhere, for all hell we know.
And
Samsung
and the funny thing is simply this: if Samsung decides to go on their own, chances are the prices of your device will probably drop, because that's the manufacturer telling you that they're probably willing to slash $100, maybe even $200 off the price of the phone.
You think
just so they can sell to you direct?
I think because so many consumers will expect zero interest loans. I think that whatever potential direct sale to consumer savings you might have is going to be offset by the fact that they've got a lot of money just sort of being tied up without generating any interest on it.
I think if they can sell direct, and if they can sell direct to consumers who are willing to plunk down to Samsung.
Oh, actually, Sam, there could also be potential issues with just what do you call that? Crap. You know, where it's an unfair business practice that you can sell something for one price in one place and not and sell it at a different price for another. There's a word that I'm trying to remember, but I think like the carriers could make an argument to say, like, you know, if Samsung is undercutting us, that could be some kind of unfair situation.
No,
chances are the carriers are the ones
that do that. They'll just match the price. Well, they'll just match the price. That's all that they'll do, and they'll Samsung might say, all right, we're going to sell this phone here for $599, and they'll technically have to sell the same phone to the carriers at the same exact price at $599.
I mean, consumers at that price, yeah.
And the thing is that carriers,
and then it'll be up to the carriers.
You gotta remember, carriers don't make money off phones. They don't. They buy the phones at those full prices in lots, and all they do is, and remember, they take the hit a lot of times on when they back in contracts. They take the hit on the price of the phone in exchange for the service, because the service already had the price of the phone built into it. And they did it again, but this time, I mean, not only is the price of the phone built into the service, but then they make you pay a monthly fee for it. So now they're actually making money off of it. People are stupid.
That's why I'm like, I don't think the carriers will be too
because that's exactly what Samsung will bring up, and T-Mobile will have no problem going up in there talking about them doing that shit. And exposing that whole, well, you're charging us twice for your plans because it was always built into your plans before. That'll turn into a whole hoopla. They might just be quiet and just go, all right, whatever, and deal with it.
Yeah. So real quick, I just wanted to get your guys' opinion, because you guys watched the president of Samsung America, the actual video apology. Just what did you think of that presentation? Because he's really trying to do like the droopy dog, sad eyes, and like, you know, we're very sorry, you know, like do you think that that's going to carry any emotional weight for the people who were potentially considering the Note 7?
I mean,
I think it does, because it's not like you get this from Apple. All they do is sell you a damn antenna and tell you,
you're holding it wrong.
And holding it wrong. And instead of reconfiguring their manufacturing.
I mean, but let's be frank. How many times have we had a CEO of any company? Really, I mean, think about it. Car companies do recalls all the time.
Right.
They don't drop videos.
That's true.
They don't.
Well,
I mean, they get.
We're also dealing with a company that's ran by primarily of an institution outside of the United States that thinks a lot differently than people here in the U.S.
Yep.
And remember, CEOs in the U.S., the last thing they want to do is apologize because they think that's a sign of weakness, even though it's kind of bullshit. But that when you deal with it outside of the United States, they think things a lot differently. They're willing to apologize and say that they're wrong and start a makeup process and willing to go forward with things, versus, you know, CEOs like, I'm just gonna hide behind, not say anything, and collect my money regardless either way.
I think it's a combination of that, and also the fact that the CEO role is getting a little different. Not very recently, the CEO of Starbucks was actually on the Daily Show to talk about what Starbucks is doing to further, you know, the understanding of race relations. This is Starbucks talking about race relations, talking about politics, talking about, you know, helping.
Do you drink your coffee black or blonde?
Exactly. No, talking about things that you normally wouldn't expect a CEO to come out and talk about.
This is also a different age of CEOs too. You're not going to find CEOs probably above 60 saying this stuff.
Different types of CEOs. There might be different ages of CEOs, but I think the move right now is corporations have gotten such a bad rep, be it corporations in Wall Street or be it corporations in any other sectors, right? What they're beginning to do is they're beginning to realize that we have a responsibility to our consumers. And this video to me kind of says, okay, we fucked up on that responsibility. Let us, you know, let's make up for it, right? Hess did the same thing with Sprint. Remember, Hess was one of the first ones to do this by coming out.
Hess was always apologizing.
He was doing something similar with Sprint, and even with T-Mobile, we see the CEO of T-Mobile even on commercial on TVs now. So these CEOs are becoming the true face of their company. They're no longer handing out that responsibility to just like talking heads. They're actually saying, you know what, I'm going to step out there. I'm going to take the responsibility. I'm going to basically apologize, tell people what's coming up, tell people why they should sign up with our service, which I think it's a good trend. I think it's a trend that should be encouraged. I think it's a trend that, you know, consumers need to pay attention to, because at the end of the day, when something does fuck up, I want consumers to be able to say, name CEO, like Tim Baxter fucked this up. Name next company Tim Baxter is and say, you know what? I don't trust this company because Tim Baxter is at the head of this company. Maybe I'll be a little bit more skeptical. Let's put CEOs exactly what they where they should be, the face of the company, and people make decisions based on who heads that company. And I think this is a trend that should continue. I definitely like it.
I agree. All right, so let's move on.
That could get dangerous, because you can end up with CEOs of like, what's his name for Uber, that all of a sudden doesn't speak at all anymore either because of
because he said so many stupid shit.
Yes. So I don't think it necessarily needs to be a CEO. There needs to be somebody that's that can be properly be the face of the company. It's like, you're not going to have Johnny Ives doing any more live interviews or anything anymore at events because he's terrible on camera. You know, it's like, you know, if Microsoft is smart, they probably put panels for everything godly possible, and Nadella should not even be seen on camera.
Oh god, that's a different conversation we should have.
We'll talk about Microsoft in a sec, but let's quickly jump to an avenue where Apple is not doing so well against the major competitor. Spotify just announced 40 million subscribers, and right now is currently outpacing Apple Music quite well. Are we surprised? Nope.
Actually, no, hold on.
Why are we arguing about making fun of Apple? We should be making fun of Tidal about this shit.
Oh yeah, no one wants to buy Tidal. Like how many times we talked about this on Pocket now?
Apple does not want to buy Tidal. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Like,
Apple's actually doing well compared to Tidal. When you're losing to Google Music, which is niche technically, because you have to kind of know about it, you're losing to them. There's problems.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean that was the funniest topic that we talked about on our podcast too, was like Apple cannot emphatically enough deny any interest in buying Tidal. And Jules did the math. It was something like, if Apple were to buy Tidal for only $500 million, not even like what like some of these new hot apps are going for, every single Tidal subscriber would have to say subscribed for 13 months after the acquisition just to break even on buying Tidal for $500 million. It was so bad. But no, actually,
on the library too, because it's not like you're gonna get anything. Getting
back to Spotify though, I actually am a little surprised. One, because Apple Music comes pre-installed on every iPhone, and that Apple has been making Spotify jump through hoops for how Spotify wants to bill customers, that we've still seen this kind of growth. I mean, I think it's a testament to how good Spotify's service is and the relationship they have with their customers, that their customers have been loyal in following them through some of those transitions on how they pay for the service.
I got why it's working. I got the exact reason why it's working. Google is a search engine, Spotify is a streaming music. It is. Oh yeah. What it is.
It's become the Kleenex of that service.
Apple can't be. Once that happens, you're done. You can compete just to be a second person in there as another option, but you're done. You're never gonna become the number one, especially considering that you got to remember that Apple essentially rebranded all their music out of iTunes. They haven't used the iTunes branding to promote their music. So when you're talking about Apple Music, you're essentially introducing a brand new service, even though it's not a brand new service, to your audience versus just keeping it saying, hey, this is iTunes streaming, iTunes, you're familiar with that? Here's what iTunes can offer you. They went away from that iTunes branding, which I think hurt them in familiarity a lot, because now you got this new thing that you pop up and open up your music app and it's trying to force you into a 3-month trial and you're like, you don't want it. I want to play my music. No, fuck your music. You're gonna play this whether you like it or not. And people took a bit of disdain to that, especially since it doesn't have the iTunes logo on it. The little CD with the little stupid blue clef note wasn't sitting there on it. So if people don't see that, it's like, I don't know what the hell this is. Get this off my phone. You know.
I think one of the other things,
just like when they put what is it, Coldplay or whatever to people's phones.
Yeah, it was Coldplay.
Oh no, it was YouTube.
No, YouTube
album. And so it's like, darn you for giving me a free album. I'm gonna use Microsoft Groove.
No, I think
that's still around.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That's still around?
No,
I still like it because I've backed up all my music on OneDrive in addition to Google Play, so I pull up Groove and all of my music there.
No, I think one of the reasons why Spotify does well, besides the fact that you kind of think of Spotify like Google search, but for you to get there is also customer service. They've done a good job, but they've also done a good job on the hardware side. I mean, the way they've done Spotify is integrated to different pieces of audio hardware, whether it's speakers, devices out there that control Spotify directly for you. So they've made it so easy to use Spotify, which kind of comes back to your point of saying, so easy to search like Google. It's the same thing, where now if you buy a Bose speaker, I mean, you're good. You don't need to do too much to actually control. You can control from devices back and forth. Doesn't matter, because they've made that integration so easy for consumers. So, compared to you moving. And again, if you move from an iOS device to something else, you're not bothered by, I'm trapped by Apple's ecosystem, right? I mean,
That's another big thing too.
Yeah, you're like, I'm on Spotify. I can use it on anything. Doesn't matter, you know. And that's a big
when
thing.
those services really went live, and because it was Spotify and Pandora, I think they both did a good job of embracing boxes like Roku's. But Spotify took it to a whole nother level of making sure that their service could be accessed anywhere.
And Pandora really tried to make it more like a radio service online.
Right.
Which kind of came to bite them when people started gunning for them and asking that they pay royalties similar to radio stations.
Yeah.
And that was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I think really the true answer to that, like to me, my opinion on this is it's really just the streaming. Apple didn't get into streaming until later on. Google didn't really start streaming until later on. And even when Google started streaming, it's really limited on where you got that stream.
Yeah, I had to give up because of the number of phones that I activate.
Review. You call them and they'll remove it.
I've already called them to remove it, and now I'm getting we've already removed it once for you.
It's once a year. It's once
so
a
I'm
year.
like, I'm out.
And the guy told me I should make dummy email accounts next time.
I'm not doing that.
I was like, are you serious?
You know, the thing is, that wasn't necessarily, that's not how it originally was. Beforehand, you could remove all 10 devices. I think that came down from the RIAA. I think that was them that got that complaint, because they made that change, and I don't think that was a Google-esque change.
Well, but also, I mean, like, if Google is going to push back on anything, if I have a registered device, I can stream music. If I remove the registration, I can't stream music. There's really no conflict there.
Yeah, it's just tied to your freaking account.
Well, it is.
So basically, if you're going to basically share your account with others, you'll probably be sharing your emails too. So chances are you're not doing that. So,
well, and also it wouldn't be out of the question for Google to come up and then say like, hey, you can have 10 authorized devices, but you can only have 2 streaming at the same time. Something like what Netflix is starting to do with the different accounts that you can set up. Yeah. I mean, even that would be
I think that has a lot to do with licensing. I think that's not necessarily something that, remember, because they put this out.
I agree with
remember when they put this out, they just put this out as what it was. It's like, hey, here's free play, here's free streaming. Let's just, do what you want to do. You want to pay the extra fee to get the better service. Boom. But
the things that of all people, Microsoft does it better now. Literally, you just go and deactivate the device and you move forward.
Warren, I agree with you. I agree that it's probably an outside force. I don't believe that Google intended for their service to be utilized this way. But I feel like if you were going to push back against any kind of policy, this would have been one where I would have wanted Google to step up.
Yeah,
but let's not forget that the original kings of streaming of this whole thing was Zune. So they were first to market technically before Spotify even existed. They
killed off Zoom. We'll get into this.
Hey, you know what? Everyone, get the camera, push it right back to E. That's the look of every Zune user right now.
You know how much I love the Zune. Zune had solid audio quality.
Zune software on your desktop. That thing was beautiful.
Yes,
it was beautiful. So much of the stuff that happened in Zune is seen in now every other service now uses those things.
We will get into this Microsoft and everything. Sure.
Yes. That is our next topic quickly, because first of all, Microsoft rebranded the health app into called Microsoft the Band app now.
That doesn't open.
Yeah. Okay, that's number one. Number two, rumors are now hitting that we will not see a Band 3 this year, and we may not see another Band. Now, we all know from our band users, aka Sam and Warren, who have changed bands more times than they've changed belts. I think
bands that make you dance. Apparently, what the hell we've been doing?
What is good? My question here is because I'm doing a video on this later on. I was like, what is going on with Microsoft? What is seriously going on with them? Because they are, and we heard this rumors in the past, and it looks like Satya is trying to envision a company that has no hardware and just mostly software until the Xbox falters in his mind, because that's what I'm getting.
They're already talking about axing the Xbox. What was it, like a couple of years ago when we were saying, "Oh, Microsoft's going to cut the Xbox division"?
Well, no, that was
That
investors
was
starting up shit about them. They should cut the Xbox division off because we're analysts and we want to try and manipulate the Microsoft stocks. We don't know a fucking thing about gaming, but we're just going to make up rumors anyways. Even though this is their most successful consumer-based product in their arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, personally, I think the issue was Nadella. Simple as that.
Well,
I don't think
that out.
Seriously, I think he was never the right choice for CEO.
They should have given it to our boy, the Trojan horse. He should have been the CEO.
The Trojan horse.
Yes, he worked hard.
Then run everything else into the ground, just like he did with Nokia. That makes a whole lot of damn sense.
No. Nokia was calculated.
He knows dive the fuck out of that. Like,
hell yeah, because he basically went.
And how well did that work out?
Because you get a CEO that doesn't have the same vision, and the CEO was just cutting things left and right.
I don't know.
That's the problem.
I don't know. All I know is he tombstone power drove it. It didn't kick out after 3. I'll tell you that much. Done.
Wow.
He got the tombstone and then Nadella came by and chokeslammed it.
My favorite wrestler was Jake the Snake, so I don't have
It caught a DDT. Jake the Snake. He straight caught that DDT. Exactly what happened to Nokia.
Bam.
Straight caught that DDT. Boom. Done. 1, 2, 3.
Sorry, quick tangent. Have you guys seen the Jake the Snake documentary, like about his like trials of rehab? It's actually a pretty interesting watch.
Yeah.
Guy went through some rough years.
Yeah. So I know he went with DDP yoga for a little while, and that's what kind of brought him back up, which you never think a wrestler being a yoga.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, when you talk about the Nokia acquisition, that was a hierarchy mistake because because Elop did what he was supposed to do. He brought it in. Now they decided to fuck it up after that. Sorry, sorry, Lou. Lou said I'm losing ad money because I'm swearing now. My bad.
Poop. Fudge.
Frack. He decided to frack it up.
Mother, father.
Mother, father. But they decided to that. But going back to Satea's right now in this position where Microsoft is in, I'm surprised that we're getting Scorpio next year. Hopefully, it looks like that is going to be the last Microsoft console, at least maybe till another CEO comes in or something.
All there be no CEO by the time comes in.
But I'm just concerned of the way the company is pushing hardware away and not realizing that you still need hardware, especially what the Surface should tell you that you need hardware. Surface doesn't have to outsell, but it needs to gauge your OEMs. You need to put your OEMs in a place, and you need to do certain things. The band came in. Yeah, the first band, we didn't like the design, but we're like, man, this thing is pretty good. Spruce it up a little bit, and we'll be happy. And, we've seen companies kind of copy that to a certain degree, do more. Fitbit does more now. Fitbit also worked with the band software because they wanted to tap into what the band was doing.
Well, and look at how they nailed it with Charge HR. I mean, that sparked consumer awareness like no other fitness tracker I've seen, where my family was like, well, I mean, I was going to get some sort of, whatever, Garmin or something, but then they saw the Charge HR and they all latched onto it.
Yeah.
It's first of all, it's just funny what you're talking about with OEMs and stuff like that. This is the things I've been preaching for 3 years on this very, very show, talking about Microsoft and the things that they needed to do in terms of getting their products out there, manufacturers and influencing manufacturers to make the products the way they want them to do it. It's what Google's done with Nexus phones, and it's influenced how other phones work and such. And they needed to do the same thing, and they're sort of going away from the one thing that's making it kind of work from them, which is dumb in many cases.
To your point to that is, that's what Nokia should have been. Even if you're going to downsize it, even if you're going to stream it down and say, look, it's too big, we acquired this. But Nokia should have been your division that says everything cool, funky coming out of Microsoft hardware. Because we know these guys can build it anyway, right? Yeah. You might as well just spit it out from here. Combine them with the Surface team. You all make it work. I don't care. Make it work.
But you have to remember, they didn't have the Nokia name. they had the Lumia name, which didn't mean shit.
No, but they had the Nokia personnel. That's the more important thing. All the chief engineers and all the guys who hold patents with all that stuff still work in Microsoft now.
Well, and I
Actually
feel
do.
like
but
they
you still
completely
gotta, but it still
underplayed.
has that Lumia name on it.
You can
Doesn't
still-
have
you can
that
still-
Oh
strong name.
no! But I think because to Warren's point, I agree there. You know, the Lumia name really wasn't going to carry a lot of weight in the United States. It was only like 3%, 4% market penetration at its highest.
Right, yeah.
But Microsoft also made no noise at the consumer level about this acquisition. You know, there was still some Nokia goodwill in the consciousness of people who remember their old phones. So even if they couldn't use the Nokia name to say, like, you know, this finished design, this, you know, those memories of the phones that you loved in the past, you know, kind of like how we can't say Super Bowl, but everyone talks about the big game when it's
Yeah.
Super Bowl season.
Yes.
Microsoft brought none of that to the conversation when they were reaching out to consumers. And then the phone that they released was a plasticky, ugly mess of a device
Oh, the 950,
because they
yeah.
were
Yeah.
way too involved on a hardware team that knew better. That Nokia hardware team knew better on how to make an attractive phone, but Microsoft got in their way.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
the biggest issue here is everyone right now, all the manufacturers, except maybe Samsung, all the major manufacturers are looking for ways to expand overseas. With the acquisition of Nokia, Microsoft bought the overseas market, and then they fucked it up.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
They threw-
Well, you got to remember how
They
this,
threw it out
the
window.
You got to remember how this purchase
It's
happened.
really
You got to remember how this purchase happened. It happened on a panic. They released that Nokia X phone, and they saw 1 million pre-orders show up for that phone, and they panicked. They panicked fastly.
No. I disagree.
They panicked.
I disagree. The 1 million pre-orders is a Chinese thing, and trust me, the Chinese market could do 1 million pre-orders.
And that Nokia X phone is also every single Windows phone possible. So
It only sold.
Some
It only
man.
sold 2 million.
yeah,
That's it.
and name a Windows phone that said 2 million.
Yeah.
Wait,
That is true. Yeah.
it outsold.
But the sale was not. The sale was not in a panic. The sale was going to happen. We already knew that sale was going to happen months before that. The problem was there was no strategy after. It doesn't matter whether you buy it on a panic or not. There was no strategy after you buy. That was the main problem.
Well, there could have been a strategy that they were willing, that they were sort of mapping themselves out.
Maybe there was, and then the Dow came in. Yeah.
And Nokia did their thing with the X, and they were like, fire.
No, the X did nothing to that. To me, the X is something that, on one hand, Elop is like, fine, we'll push the button so that you can move things further. But on the other hand, even if you had the X, you can still push out X's and still do more with this device, but they didn't do anything with the company. It doesn't matter whether the X was a panic or not. It's a matter of what did they do afterwards? Zero. That was even the main problem. Because you can have a panic buy, but if you still map things out properly and sit down and say, okay, fine, this is what we're going to do, then it will make more sense. But they just wasted it completely. And, yes, they've kept some people from there, but they've not done anything.
Oh, well, when
When
Nokia
Actually,
comes back later this fall and they put out one phone that will sell, but that once again will also every single Windows phone in existence, it's going to be hilarious. They'll do it again.
Then from the sales numbers that I can find, it's likely that the Lumia 520 probably outsold the X.
Yeah, 520 was their most popular phone. You're right. That's the one that did well. But
$50 phone.
But I think it's to me it's more to do with just leadership from the top, and it's very clear from Nadal's point of view he doesn't want anything to do with hardware.
Well, I think in general Nadella doesn't seem to want to be investing in a ground up operation, like building something from the ground up. He's wanting to leverage existing IP that's already popular and reboot it and remake it and make sequels to that, and not have to build a new franchise.
I don't think he
You
wants to
notice
do it.
how I kind of made that sound like movie speak, like cinema speak. It's kind of, I think it's a similar mentality. I think he's looking at the money of playing in this space, and he doesn't want to invest in it. And I think that's a shame because that's the goodwill sector of Microsoft. That's where you generate the exciting headlines on things like HoloLens is by having that stuff accessible. And when you go over 2 years without a flagship phone, it's no wonder that demand died off. Even though those high-end Lumias weren't huge sellers, that the mid-range and the entry-level Lumias were really the hot sellers. Not having the flagship meant that we didn't have anything exciting to talk about. And of course, you're gonna sort of die off if it's like, here's a 521, a 525, a 530. We're not going to keep talking about entry-level phones that way. You need a Lexus in the showroom to get people excited about buying Corollas.
Well, yeah,
I mean, I'm not wrong. You walk into I walk into a Nissan dealership and I'm signing a lease on an Altima, but I'm looking at the GTR. You know, like it's totally emotional. But you need that. You need that in your showroom. You need that on your dealer floor.
Well, the only way you get that is if you actually have some care to want to be consumer facing, which I just have this feeling Nadella.
Oh, I don't think Nadella wants to at all.
No.
I completely agree with that.
The big question is what will happen to the HoloLens? What is going to happen to that? Because that's a darling
vaporware.
No. Unfortunately, I think
it's already available. You can pick it up as a developer.
Oh no. But I think he's really gonna try and position it as business facing. Like, I don't think he has. I mean, we have all these feel good demos with games and Minecraft, but I don't think he has any intention. Nadella has any intention of this really being a consumer facing product. It should only go to businesses and to corporations and stuff, because that's where the money will be. And that's a shame, because I think he'll cede. They have the lead in augmented reality, and I think they're going to give it away. And I think that's a shame.
Well, they'll do it again.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is it. And a very sad note.
Real quick, before we wrap up, I did want to get your one more piece of Apple news that was really hot in the business sector over these last 2 weeks, especially leading up to the iPhone launch. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the tax situation. Apple being sued for $14 billion $12 billion. Is it $12 billion in back taxes in Ireland? That not only are they getting this amazing sweetheart deal with a low corporate tax rate, apparently they haven't even been paying that.
Sam, do you want to start off that one?
Well, it's not even a case that they haven't really been paying it. What it is the EU decided. It's actually trying to make a decision. It's more of a conversation with the EU. The EU is making a decision that kind of supersedes Ireland's, in my opinion, sovereignty. Ireland has decided that we want to attract business by lowering our tax rate for corporations in such a way that, we're competitive. Now, other countries aren't like that. Other countries who charge a higher interest rate aren't going to attract the Apples of the world and Microsofts of the world. So what Ireland is actually trying to do right now is figure out how they can stand up to the EU and keep Apple paying such a low interest rate. It's a sovereignty issue. But, I think the main issue for me here is simply this. Consumers need to see this and understand. This is why your Apples of the world, your Microsofts of the world, any other company who's going out there to get these tax benefits from these lower tax rate countries, this is why they go out there. Because they pay what they consider to be an exorbitant tax rate in the United States. And if Ireland is offering them something cheaper, then they're going to go over there and produce that and basically have their headquarters out in Ireland.
So
not produce stuff there, but have their headquarters.
So there's definitely an issue in defining what is taxable income, though, because you're absolutely right, Sam. From Apple's perspective, they are paying their 12% tax. But if we really break down the math, when we look at Apple's quarterlies, someone broke down the numbers that they're basically paying about €50 in taxes for every €1,000,000 of revenue generated, which comes down to an actual effective tax rate of 0.05%. So according to what they report to Ireland, they are paying their 12%, but we're talking about revenue generation that's far beyond what they're reporting. And that's where I think the EU actually has an argument to be made. Of course, this has to be debated out in the courts, but I think they've got a legitimate claim to say
the EU has a legitimate claim. They definitely do. But Ireland is, we want this business.
Oh yeah, Ireland doesn't want
that. Yeah, that's the thing. Ireland's like, you know what? It's okay. We cool.
It's kind of like you go, like, let's take let's go to the car dealership example, right? You go to the car dealership, and now you have this GTO that's costs you 50,000, and then you have your Nissan that costs you, let's say, 25, right? Now they charge you 26, maybe 27. You're still gonna pay the 27 because it's more in your price range. But you look at that 50 grand and you go, nah, that's a little too much. We'll stick with the 27. It is perfectly fine to pay the extra 200 just to get the GTO to go. I mean, just to get the Nissan to go home. That's $25,000, $40,000 more. Ain't happening.
Yeah.
That shit ain't happening.
That's true. I mean, yeah. Any thoughts to add on this, Warren?
People pay your damn taxes.
How did I know he was going to say that first?
You make enough money.
Taxman coming.
Pay the taxes and just get it over with. It's not like we're going to lose.
I know it's funny, but the wrinkle is that Ireland is like, we don't care.
Yeah.
That's the wrinkle in there.
But to Warren's point, I mean, what did we see from not last quarter, but the quarter before, when Apple did was it a buyback or they did a dividend share with investors in the United States? They borrowed money, so they went into debt to do that dividend instead of repatriating cash into the United States to just pay for it. That's how tax averse Apple has become for a United States company, which now technically doesn't reside in the United States, even though they do. I mean, Cupertino, I think we have a legitimate claim to say, like, that's Apple's real headquarters.
In the United States, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're building a new campus, right? They're building a new campus.
Oh, yeah, but they're really based in Ireland.
Yeah. I think what LGH Jetsma was saying actually makes sense. It says Walmart pays taxes in the Netherlands, but we don't have a Walmart here. Apple pays taxes on their patents in the Netherlands. Taxes on patents in the Netherlands is close to 0%. So that's what it's basically generating value for your shareholders by finding those tax havens, and that's what Apple is doing.
Wow, almost 0% in that. Wow, that is just. It's fantastic. Okay. On that note, guys, we have come to the end of the show. And we get to that point where we talk about what we have on the channel currently and what we can expect next week. So I'm going to start off here with Mr. Juan Bagnell from Pocket Now. And what was on Pocket Now last week? Yeah, what can we expect? Oh, is that a case? Or is that shiny? Or is that just matte?
No, this is the matte. This is the matte finish iPhone 7. I like the matte a lot better than the jet black. All you folks out there who are trying to like scramble for the glossy iPhone 7, which is going to be back ordered for a really long time because Apple needs to make it feel like it's an exclusive product when it really isn't. No, I would maybe consider going matte instead. I really like the look of this phone, and it's probably going to be a little bit better at handling scratches. The glossy iPhone is going to be really easy to scratch and nick up.
Does it slide up with the hand? I'm sorry, I'm just curious.
It's got a really satiny finish. So it's got a good grip to it. So I'm feeling better about this than anything glossy, because anything glossy, with my sweaty
hand, that's the issue I'm having.
Becomes a wet bar. So, but our first impressions went up late last night, actually technically early this morning, and we had a little fun with that video because, like I said, I did a lot of local media, so there's a bunch of footage of me getting interviewed to talk about the phone. I talked about this phone for 4 hours yesterday in Pasadena. So that's up on the channel now. I'm going to start shooting footage for the camera review. I'm going to hold off on that until I have a 7 Plus also, so that I can wrap up with the dual sensor camera. But both of those phones will be reviewed together for the camera review. And then, because I finally have a new engineering sample, we're also going to be shooting some coverage on the LG V20, but we will not have our official camera and benchmarking done on this phone because it's still not a full retail unit. This is still another sample unit. So we're going to hold off on that, but we do have some things to say about this phone too. So all of that footage will be up over the next week on pocketnow.com and youtube.com/pocketnow.
All right, cool. How about you, Mr. Warren Bowman from BW1.com?
Me? Why me? Oh, wait a minute. I'm next. Oh, damn. Okay. I think what we have up in the channel right now, we have I guess it's my busy week. We have the PS4 Pro versus Xbox One S. So the preview, talk about that a little bit ahead of time, and there's a lively discussion going on over there. sort of talking about some of the things that it has. Are they really comparable? And pretty interesting stuff going there. I also showed off the Android, the Pixel UI interface that's coming from the Pixel phones, the new launcher.
Yeah,
that's coming out. That should be coming out, I guess, probably in the next month. You can actually download and install it on your Android phone now if you want to try it and test it out. That's available. And coming up next week, I got more stuff.
All right, cool. How about you, Mr. Black Iron _man?
Sniffles. Now, basically, everything I promised last week.
Nerd.
But actually, the big things to look forward to this next week is I already started doing a comparison on these, but I'm looking at the Samsung Fit 2. This is actually the Gear Fit 2. It's actually a pretty cool device. I've been using that along at the same time as the Band 2. So a little bit of a comparison there. Yeah. So So we're going to have a little bit of a comparison between the both of them. We're going to have what the feature sets are here and what, to me, the pluses and minuses are with this particular device. Apart from that, I'm still intending to do that video on the NAS, because I think, especially given the news from from Dropbox, what happened with Apple Cloud opening, with the cloud in from different providers over the last few years, I think it's really worthwhile for people to understand that it's something like a NAS. It is not too difficult to build, and they should understand exactly what it does, which is it could possibly be their own personal cloud. So that as well, and then we have a few other knickknacks that I've been promising, and I'll try to get all of those out before the end of next week. By that I mean Friday. So we'll see how that goes.
All right, cool. On my end, we started off with our $600 Ultimate battle build against Kevin the Tech Ninja and his Ghost Builder. And
that's a Ghost Builder, man.
And I'll give you guys the results of who won according to the fans tomorrow. But you can guess pretty well.
I have a hypothesis on who might have been the winner.
I'm just saying, but definitely check it out.
Ghost Builder, man.
Just definitely check it out, because we had a sexy build. It was beautiful. I put my heart and soul there.
All over again.
Also, on the channel we have review of the V-Motor Crossfade wireless headset. Really nice, and even though it's a premium headset, the mic for gaming is absolutely fantastic. You have to just take a listen to it. I was really impressed with it. I mean, I enjoyed the headset, but once I plugged the mic in, I was like, oh snap. I mean, I don't need to use gaming headsets anymore. Forget that. Took a look at the HTC 10 in the last 6 months of the device. A review of the Moto G Play, which is the new Motorola, is priced at $99 for Amazon Prime users. In terms of iPhone, the first iPhone video we had was best 7 headsets for the iPhone 7 Bluetooth headset. So if you're looking to pick one up, there are options there for you. Do not pick up the AirPods. I am begging you. Just don't.
Why? Don't you want to look like a weird alien person?
No.
You can't even really pull off like Commander Uhura. Like they don't point in the right direction for that, which is a shame. I think they missed an opportunity there.
You can't do that. We also have a comparison of the PS4 Slim and the original PS4. We will have another comparison with the PS4 Slim and the Xbox One S for those people who are deciding, because both of them are priced the same. Our first iPhone 7 impressions will be dropping later on today from Alex, 24 hours with the iPhone 7, so you can take a look. If you don't know, Alex is an Apple fan, so it's going to be skewed a certain way.
And we never, ever hold it against him.
Yeah,
most of the time.
Just most of the time. Yeah,
I like your like. It's like, so this is
Somebody pulled the switch
bias, and you guys just need to be aware that this won't be objective.
He also was a Windows Phone fan.
No, he wasn't.
Hey.
He was a Chromebook fan. I was a Windows Phone fan.
Yeah,
he approaches things from a very
number of us in this chat were pretty hardcore Windows Phone fans.
Exactly. But anyway, guys, thank you very much.
I always said I didn't get it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You know what, Sam? Just shush.
We'll just ask Alex to plug in his Chromebook to the network.
Let's never talk about that.
Shots fired.
Pow. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining. Appreciate everyone commenting in the chat. Continue to do so in the comment section of this video after we're done. If there's anything else you want answered in terms of questions or any topics, join us next week. Again, same time, 12 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget to check out everyone's channel. Check out Mr. Juan Bagnell at Pocket Now. That's where the videos are. Also, you can follow him on Twitter. It is Some Gadget Guy. And you can also follow Mr. Warren Bowman at bw1.com on YouTube. And his Twitter handle is right there at bw1.com. As well as Sam, a.k.a. Black Iron _man, whose lower third is not too late. It's not there.
I'm going to put it on now.
I'm going to put it on right now.
You can follow him on Twitter. It's Black Iron _man.
Most of your
and
there, it's right there. Oh,
it's not.
Damn
way.
Oh, actually, the funny thing, it was on, but it wasn't on.
This is it right there. That's his lower third with Twitter. Follow him right there. Jesus. And of course, for me, it's Booredatwork Thunder E. On Booredatwork on YouTube as well as Twitter. Thank you very much, guys, and always enjoy your entertainment.